President Biden is meeting with Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell today for a rare face-to-face discussion in the Oval Office.
That's right. The meeting comes as the U.S. struggles with some of its highest levels of inflation in 4 decades. Mr. Biden says inflation is now his administration's top economic priority. Millions of Americans are struggling with soaring prices on essentials like gas and food. During the meeting, the president said he would stay out of the Fed's way as it addresses inflation moving forward.
My plan is to address inflation. It starts with a simple proposition: respect the Fed, respect the Fed's independence. My job as president is not to not only nominate highly qualified individuals for that institution, but to give them the space they need to do their job. I'm not going to interfere with their critically important work. The Fed has dual responsibilities: 1, full employment, and 2, stable prices.
Let's bring in Heather Boushey now for more on this. She is on the White House's Council of Economic Advisors. Heather, welcome. It's great to have you with us. So, of course, we know the president says he won't interfere with the Fed's fight to lower inflation, but clearly this meeting indicates some frustration from the White House. So what is the White House prepared to do to combat the rising costs of consumer goods?
Well, certainly the president met today with Fed Chairman Jerome Powell to, of course, congratulate him on his confirmation to be the chair, the ongoing chair of the Federal Reserve, and also to talk to him about the fact that 3 of the other 4 nominees that the president has put forward have now also been confirmed to the Federal Reserve. And so that's where this conversation started, that, the president, one of his main goals in getting inflation down is understanding that having an independent Fed that was fully staffed was core to that goal. And so today was a day to talk about, what the Fed is doing. They are an independent entity that is tasked with getting the economy to full employment and having price stability. And a key part of the conversation was to hear from the Federal Reserve Chairman about their plans. The president has been focused on the issue of inflation for quite some time. He's been focused particularly on making sure that consumers can get the things that they need on the shelves at the right prices, at prices that are fair and competitive. One of the things that he talked about in the op-ed that he put out in the Wall Street Journal today, where he emphasized his focus on inflation, of course, is his housing policy and other policies that he's focused on to bring down prices of important things like prescription drugs and the price of insulin or the price of childcare and elder care. But of course, in all of these issues, the president needs Congress to work with him. He needs them to help him do their part so that we can keep down prices for American consumers.
And Heather, it's all well and good for the president to say he wants to do these things, but so many Americans need relief now. The president says he fully agrees with the Fed's assessment that tackling inflation is the administration's top priority. But as we've recently seen with the baby formula shortage, there are many things in the economy that aren't as stocked as they should be, and we wouldn't have even known about that if whistleblowers hadn't made that such a priority, and it's such a crucial source of food that people need. So how is the Federal Reserve planning to accomplish this? What does the administration support should current trends continue?
Well, certainly the Federal Reserve, again, they're an independent agency and we do not comment on Fed policy, but they are taking steps to address inflation. They've raised interest rates, which of course will help to lower prices across the economy. But the president is focused on doing what the administration can do. So an example, there has been a series of steps to make sure that we get infant formula back on shelves using the unique powers of the Defense Production Act that's allowed the administration to fly in formula from overseas, making sure that that is high quality for America's infants, but making sure that they have that food and that formula that they need. Other things that the president has done, he's worked arm in arm with allies to release oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve so that we can have more oil flowing through into gas stations across the economy. So in this moment of need, during this unprovoked war that Putin is waging in the Ukraine, that the president and allies have done at least these steps that can help keep gas prices from going even higher. The other thing the president did is that he made it possible for more ethanol to be mixed into fuel this summer that'll lower prices at some gas stations around the country. Those are just some of the many things that the president has done to focus on this. And let me just end with one other one. You know, the president has been very clear all along that whatever he does, he wants it to be paid for. And we can see the success of that kind of focus of his attention, and the fact that the deficit is much lower today than anticipated, lower than it was in 2019 pre-pandemic. And that is also helping to ease off some of those price pressures across the economy.
And Heather, you mentioned that op-ed published in the Wall Street Journal on Monday that Mr. Biden wrote, where he also called out Congress for what he said is its failure to pass meaningful legislation to lower costs for American families. So as someone on the president's economic council, what exactly is the president's plans for the economy that he can do unilaterally moving forward?
Well, there are a series of things, as I noted, that he can do unilaterally. You know, the steps that he's taken to get formula back on shelves, those are things that he has the authority to do because of things like the Defense Production Act. But, you know, he needs Congress to help him to lower many of the high costs that families face. So, for example, one of the things that the president called for in that op-ed is, you know, we could do a lot to continue to lower energy prices for American families by passing the tax credits that the president has proposed. You know, the president met with a dozen or so CEOs of major energy utilities recently, and they told him that if those credits were passed, if his policy was put in place, if Congress would work with him, they could lower consumer prices by about $500 a year. So these are real things that the president does need Congress to work with him on, but the president isn't waiting. Every day he's taking steps to control the things that he can control. So releasing the oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, again, that was a power he had the authority to do, and he used it to again, help lower prices for American consumers.
And Americans certainly need that now. Heather Boushey, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.